I was about 12 years old in the early 2000s. My family were going on a trip overnight with my dad for work, and they were letting me stay home alone. My grandparents lived in an attached apartment, so I wasn't truly alone. Nonetheless, I was quite excited to stay up all night, eat pizza and candy, and play video games till the morning. The night before my parents were scheduled to leave, I had woke up at 3 a.m. This wasn't unusual, as I would have trouble sleeping. Half asleep, I stumbled down the stairs to the living room on my way to the kitchen for a little midnight snack. I wasn't prepared for what would happen next. As I reached the bottom of the stairs, the moonlight spilled in through the window, lighting up the room enough to see my steps, but not enough to see clearly. I looked up from my feet to see ahead of me, and on the couch was something that left me terrified. A man dressed in all black suit, with a hat similar to a cowboy hat, was sitting straight up on the couch, legs crossed and hands together as if he were waiting for someone. As I stated, he raised his head up to look at me. A pair of red eyes pierced my soul, and an evil grin flicked across the face. I immediately felt an ice-cold chill as my hairs stood on end. I turned around and bolted back upstairs and straight into my room. After a minute, I tried to be brave and come back down, this time turning the light on from the top of the stairs. The man was nowhere to be seen, and nothing out of place. I had seen the red eyes in the house before, peering at me from the closet of my sick mother's room. I think it was a demon who preyed on her, which is a story for another time. But this encounter was the first time I ever saw the attached to a body. And even now, nearly 20 years later, it still puts me on edge, as I can remember the experience in detail. When I was in college, my girlfriend at the time lived in an apartment off campus. The back door was in a closet-sized back room, which she kept a hider key in for when I came over. It sat on a very dusty wooden support beam nailed to the wall. One night I came home and went to grab the key when it slipped out of my fingers, and I watched it fall into the very small, dusty space between the wall and the support beam. Frustrated, I knocked on the door, woke my girlfriend, and retrieved a knife to fish out the key tucked behind the support beam. When I went to stick the knife in, there wasn't a space between the wall and the support beam. It was totally snug. I was confused. I was 100% sure I just saw the key fall. I wiped away the dust, pulled on the beam. Nothing. Completely solid and immovable. I remember stopping and thinking for a few minutes, completely dumbfounded and trying to process what I just experienced. Cut to me and my incredibly superstitious girlfriend searching for the key in the closet-sized back room. The key was gone. We searched for 45 minutes, despite the back room being practically empty apart from some unused shelves. She wouldn't let me stop looking. It was her only key and she was very scared. As I mentioned, she was very superstitious and was convinced the apartment was haunted. The next day we got a replacement key and sort of forgot about the whole ordeal. Months later, we randomly found the missing key sitting carefully in the back room on the same beam I saw it fall through. From observation, it appeared to be sitting in the exact same spot it disappeared from, and seemingly even in the same position. I have zero explanation and no valid guesses as to what I witnessed. I wonder if things disappear all the time, but most of them are just rocks and leaves and things you'd never notice. My girlfriend at the time was convinced it was a ghost. I think I'm more on the side of a glitch. So this happened to me asleep, but it scared the living hell out of me, so to begin I was having a pretty wacky and fun dream. I was in my toilet, and weird fun things were happening all around me, flying toilet paper toilets, speaking and whatnot. But then I saw something in my window. Context: in my actual bathroom there's a small window for ventilation. I saw my friend, let's call him John. So I saw John outside this tiny window, smiling at me. So I asked him, "When did you get here and why are you outside my window?" He replied, "I came to see you." As he smiled, but he looked wrong, it's hard to describe it in detail. But in short, he looked distorted. So then he asked me to open the window, but it felt weird the way he said it, so I told him, "Hey, John, you know, today isn't a good day. How about another time? I'm busy." When I said that, his face went somber, then he just said, "Okay," and left. When he left, I was relieved. So then I went to my window and closed the glass panel, but I had to open the screen door quickly in order to do it when I closed it. I got back down. Then I heard something. I looked up and it was my other friend, let's call him Joe. So I saw Joe on the roof just smiling at me. I said to him, "Joe, when did you come in?" He just smiled in the same distorted way John did. So then I proceeded to tell him how about I get us some drinks. So as I was walking out of my bathroom, he charged at me. But when I tried to run, hands were holding me down as he ran up to me. His face got more distorted the closer he got. Then I woke up. My alarm was going crazy, and I was drenched in sweat and exhausted. Thanks for reading this bizarre and scary dream I had. When I was around 5, I had an encounter with an entity that looked a mannequin in a clothing store. He wore a black suit. He didn't give a vibe of something harmfully, more like the feeling when you're on a road trip and you look up at the stars, just pure bliss. A couple of months ago he came back and just stood there now, different. This time he wore a turtleneck with a small jacket and a mysterious bag around his shoulder and a pair of baggy shorts with small sneakers. He saw him when I was sitting alone on a bench. I got the feeling of being watched like the first time, and I looked up and there he was. I just gave a small hello. He just stared. Since he didn't seem to be harmful, I just turned back to my phone. Later that day, my cat acted weird. From then on, he kept seeing him out of the corner of my eyes. I had the feeling that I need to name him. So I named him Shariel No Face, or just Cheryl, after the urban legend of a guy labeled a monster after getting struck by lightning and losing his facial features. Sometimes he sends me a signal. These signals are in the form of a blue jay or a small spider that disappears when you swat it. If anyone knows what he may be, please let me know. I don't want to get rid of him. I just want to know more about him.